What do you get when you bring writers together for some fun and games?
Writer's Virtual Table.
Hello and welcome to our fourth episode of Writer's Virtual Table. I am so excited. We have some more authors with us today, and we're going to get started with Mark. You're going to tell us your name, when you started writing, and the first book you wrote. What was the publishing process like for you?
See if I can remember all those things. Okay, my name I think I got. Mark Leslie. I write under that name. I have a much longer French last name, but I write under that name because nobody can ever spell or pronounce it. Now, I have been writing and getting rejected for my writing since I was 15 years old. I was inspired to use the name Mark Leslie because I was reading Piers Anthony at the time, and I found out that Anthony was his middle name. And I went, hey, I have a middle name people can pronounce. Let's use that. And I write all kinds of different styles. You see the skulls behind me. A lot of it has to be a little bit creepy, a little bit speculative in nature. And my very first book, One Hand Screaming, which came out in 2004, the process for that was years and years of submitting stories to publications, getting lots of rejections, getting some acceptances. And then after I got the rights back to many of my stories, I took about 15, 16 of the stories, maybe 12 of them had been previously published, and I collected them together into a collection of short stories. And I published that in 2004. And I actually self-published that in 2004. Obviously, I started with print because that was the only option. A few years later, when ebooks came out, I then made an ebook version of it. And I have yet to still do an audiobook, although I do have several of the stories already recorded for audio. So it was a long-term, many years process.
Awesome, thank you. Miranda, your turn.
Hi, I'm Miranda Oh. I'm up in Canada, Manitoba, smack dab right in the prairies. How long have I been writing? I've been writing for about 6 years. I have published 3 books. It's a 3-part series called Chin Up, Tits Out. It's chick lit, it's fun, it's dramatic, it is a wild ride. So they say. I mean, I can tell you that I love the books, but I wrote them, so I should love them. It's like telling you you don't like your children. These were like my firstborn children. So my publishing process for the first book was let's just say I was the blind leading the blind. I didn't know which way was right, which way was wrong. When I first thought to myself, I'm going to write a book. This is going to be great. I have a story and I'm going to put it down on paper. I reached out to a friend of mine who wrote a nonfiction business book. And I'm like, you did it. Teach me your ways. And so we sat down over a couple cocktails because every good conversation starts with a couple of good friends over a couple cocktails. And he kind of showed me a path to choose. And so I worked with a publishing house that I own the rights to it. So they basically had an editor, a cover designer. They helped me put together a website. They did all the work for me, but I got to keep the rights of my book. So that happened, and I ended up getting on the top of Amazon's sale list when I launched it, and it was super exciting. I think I fell out of my chair when that happened. It was absolutely fantastic. And then, book 2 and 3, I wanted to learn more about publishing and getting my name out there. So each book I've published has been published a little bit differently. You take on a little bit more, you give a little bit out, and it's a learning process, as Mark can attest to. It never stops. You never stop learning and you never stop growing. And looking at my first book and the writing process, even to the 3rd book and my new series coming, all these things, it's very, very exciting. But again, learning never stops. And to get from idea to actually being sold on the shelves is never a straight path, and nobody takes the same path 2 books in a row. So it's kind of a lovely creative world.
Thank you. By the way, Mark, where are you calling in at?
Oh yeah, I forgot to see. I knew I was going to forget something. I'm coming at you from Waterloo, Ontario, which is just about an hour and a half northwest of Toronto.
Awesome. So I guess I will go now. I am going to play along with you. So my name is Casey Bell. I'm calling in from New Jersey, United States of America. I started writing, I think, 6 or 7 years old, songs. I started out with songs. Anytime, the first song I wrote, I think, was a song I wrote to a video game music. My brother was playing video games or whatever. And I just started writing a song to it. And my first book was published in 2007, self-published, about my high school years. Well, not my high school years, about the things that happened to the students. But I changed. I mean, I used to not tell people because I was always afraid they were going to say something, but I don't think they're ever going to read it. But I changed names. But the stuff that happened was pretty particular. So even with a name change, I know if they read it, they would know who I was talking about. But that was the first book I published, self-published. I found that out I went to a workshop my church had on self-publishing, and that was how I started publishing. It's been a crazy ride. One of the things, I published back when MySpace was a thing. So I told everyone about it, and I thought for sure I was going to be a bestseller, and no one bought it. And then that's when I started learning that marketing and PR and all that is more important than the writing itself. And so it's been a wild ride since then, and I've learned a lot. And it's been fun talking to a lot of writers because, as you said, Miranda, no writer has the same story. And it's publishing stories. I like hearing people first how they started writing and also the publishing story. They're always interesting. All right, so now let's get started with Ask a Question.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this message.
Hey guys, my name is Miranda Oh. I'm the author of the Chin Up, Tits Out series. I'm really excited to share with you. I'm about to drop book 2. It is fantastic. It's so exciting. You can get the book on Amazon online or any Chapters Indigo across Canada. And if you're in Winnipeg, you can pick it up at McNally Robinson. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Hadley. Hadley's an 18-year-old woman. She is fun, fearless, focused, has her life mapped out. You know what, never mind. I'm not gonna tell you more because I don't wanna spoil it, but if I were to sum it up, sex, drugs, carnival rides, and African bushes. Oh, and a cute boy with an accent. I mean, what girl doesn't go weak in the knees with a beach boy and an accent, right? Hadley is at a point that the love of her life is about to come home with her. She is racking in the jackpot of having her happily ever after. Big home and a family and a white picket fence, and then boom, life hits her with another curveball. Actually, it smacks her in the face with another curveball. So without giving away too much, it's just a twisted wild ride. You know what, sometimes it's easier to laugh than to cry, and sometimes it's easier to drink copious amounts of wine than cry. So that's pretty much what she does. Again, I don't want to ruin it for you. Just read the book. You're gonna probably be addicted to something after it, so I do hope you enjoy it. Cheers to you.
And we are back.
Now let's get started with Ask a Question. Miranda, ask Mark a question.
Oh my goodness gracious. What is your favorite thing about being an author?
So many things. If I had to narrow it down to one, it really is a reminder of writing and publishing and where it comes from. And all writing and publishing is, when you think about it, is two people connecting. You've got the writer and you've got the reader. And no matter how it's written and no matter how it's consumed, that's that connection. That's that magical dance between writer and reader. So my very favorite thing about being a writer is when I hear from somebody, usually and ideally somebody I don't know, I've never met, I have no idea. So there's no vested interest. Like, well, actually my mom doesn't like my stuff. So it wouldn't be my mom saying, oh, I like your stuff, because she doesn't. But when some stranger has read something that I've written and it has resonated with them. It has entertained, it has informed, it has inspired, it has moved them in some way. That's when I feel, I don't care whether or not I've hit the New York Times bestseller list, which I haven't yet, or not. It's that is what I do it for. Now, yes, it's good to get money when people buy stuff and you can make money as a writer, but it's that connection. That's my favorite thing about being a writer. Is it my turn to ask a question? Now, do I ask Casey or Miranda? How does this work?
Hold on. I got it all set up. I'm actually going to
Okay.
ask Miranda a question now.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
Ooh.
If you had the opportunity to meet an author, dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh my goodness gracious. You know what? I'm going to say Lawrence Hill because he is another Canadian author, and he was the biggest. The Book of Negroes was the biggest book that I had ever consumed at that point in my life when I read it. And I was in the middle of college, and the program that I took was an extremely competitive and hard, it was called Creative Communications. Go figure. And we would work from like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day at school, and then have to go to certain events after school to write on them, report on them, etc. That was just part of the program. And I read this book not because of school. I read it because I picked it up and I'm like, my goodness, this is amazing. And I was up till 3-4 o'clock in the morning reading it. It absolutely consumed me. And the amount of research and time and dedication that he put into that book, and then the rawness of the story was just absolutely captivating. So I would just love to sit down and have a cup of coffee with him and talk to him about that book, because that book stuck with me. I think I've read it 3 times, and I probably could read it another 100 and never get bored of it. So it stuck.
Miranda, if it's okay, I do have to say, do you want me to introduce you to Larry? He is a wonderful guy. I was lucky enough to meet him when he was writer in residence at McMaster.
Fangirl moment.
One of my short stories. And honestly, honestly, he is as wonderful in person as his writing is.
Oh, he's just somehow poetic. Like it just, and graceful. Like, how can you talk about something so dark and scary and truthful, but make it so, like, it melted my heart over and over and over again. Man, we're gonna have to take up that opportunity, Mark.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give you my email later. Make sure you email me a picture of the 3 of you guys.
Yeah.
Once you do it on that day.
Take a screenshot of our next Zoom meeting.
Amazing. Now, Mark, you're going to ask me a question.
I'm going to ask you a question. All right. So, Casey, I'm always fascinated by when you write something, you've got the first draft and then you've got the edited draft, and some things will end up on, as they say in Hollywood, on the cutting room floor. Is there any part of your writing, whether it was from a song or prose or anything that you've written, that you left on the cutting room floor, and why? And I'm not saying because of what didn't work, but I'm talking about something that was maybe, and I'll give you the example. Stephen King originally did not want to publish Pet Sematary because it was too close to home. He did not want to think about a child dying. Is there any sort of writing that you have written that hasn't yet made it into the world because it's on the cutting room floor for some sort of interesting reason?
That is highly difficult to answer, because I now have to go back and think about all my writings. The only thing I can think of is a play I wrote that has not been produced yet. And it's funny you said it's not because it didn't work. Actually, that's exactly why it's on the cutting room floor, because it didn't work. It's a children's theater play about bullying and anti-bullying. And originally, the characters were supposed to be 2 sets of characters. Children ages like 5, like elementary children, and then I was supposed to also have teenage, like high school students. And it was supposed to be how younger children deal with bullying, how older children deal with bullying, but it wasn't working at all. So I ended up there. One of the scenes was the parents aren't home, and the older, I think it's the older sister, like she's a teenager, she has her friends over, and then it's the younger brother has his friends over, and she tells him to go to his room because you're uncool, blah blah blah. And so there's a song where the teenagers are talking about how annoying younger children are, and then the younger children are explaining how annoying older children are, and it just was not working at all. So I said, you know what, I'm not going to do this. And now the play is at a point where they're children, but you don't know how old they are. Because there's times where it looks like they can be in elementary school, but then there's times where it looks like they could be in high school. And that wasn't actually done on purpose. It just happened that way. And so it's cool though, because no matter how you look at it, you can learn from it as far as anti-bullying. And so that's the only thing I can think of at the moment where and the funny thing was when I got the first idea, I was like, this is going to be amazing. And I was like, no, it's not working. So I'm just going to scrap that. And now it's just ambiguous. They're children, but you don't know where they're at.
Right.
But yeah, that's the only thing I can think of at the moment.
Cool.
But thank you for that question. No one's ever asked me that question.
That was a good question.
All right, so the next section is judge a book by its cover. I'm going to show you a cover. You have 30 seconds or less to figure out the title, figure out the main character, figure out the plot, and figure out the genre. So
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this message.
This time I woke to find myself sprawled naked in the grass, my shoulder nestled in a shrub, and the coppery aftertaste of blood in my mouth. I pulled my aching body into a sitting position and checked it over for injuries. There was a nasty-looking wound in my thigh. It hurt like it was no more than a bad bruise, but it looked like a bullet hole. So to sum up my situation, there was a distinct taste of blood in my mouth and a bullet wound in my leg. What the hell had I done this time?
Mark, you're going to go first. Title, main character, plot, and genre.
Okay, this is a book called Eternal Gardens of Our Love, and the author's name is Chester Fields. And this is a historical comedic romance. And what it is it is a story of a man who was mistakenly crowned king because he looked very much like the king who went into a garden and disappeared just while he was walking through. They brought this, it's the pauper in the king's clothing, and he ends up coming back and being married, being led to marry this woman. And they've never met. So that's the beautiful part about the fact that he doesn't realize. So he spends his entire life realizing that he's a complete fraud. And yet he brings, as a commoner, he brings a lot of new things to the kingdom in this historical classic Victorian setting. And so it's a comedy, and it is the first in a series of looking at people who have been misplaced in different classes, and how bringing that fresh perspective into a different class is actually going to be beneficial, because it helps people open their eyes, their minds, and their hearts.
Awesome.
I like how different we perceive things. It makes me so excited. Okay, so I have to come up with oh yes, I did. I wrote it down. Okay, Into the Forest is what I named it. I don't know if I like the title, but that was what 30 seconds got you. The main character, her name is Princess Sophia. She is up for the crown next in line, but doesn't want it. So decides to run away and live in the forest. She wants a very simple life. So this is a historical drama and self-discovery. So when she runs away, obviously her parents and the whole kingdom kind of goes crazy, and she finds peace and happiness in a very simple life living in the forest. And it kind of not the moral, but the moral of the story is how the two, Princess Sophia and her family, kind of need to find a happy medium to move forward with what's going to happen with the kingdom next. So that's what I got out of the title, or the cover, sorry.
Sounds lovely.
Awesome. Now, it's kind of like cheating because I designed the cover, but I threw this together. I just had images on my computer. And what I saw, and it's so different for me because I would never write a book like this, but I saw a paranormal, and I saw, so a princess gets pregnant by someone her dad, the king, doesn't like. So it's kind of like a Romeo and Juliet thing where he doesn't like the family. So when she has the baby, he kills the baby and he buries it amongst his garden. And 20 years later, the baby returns as a 20-year-old ghost. And he scared, well, he makes the royal family, the title is called Hidden Royal or Hidden Royalty. He makes the family scared and ashamed of what they're doing, and they go mentally ill, and crazy things happen to where they end up all dying. And now the kingdom has no, king or queen. So the community comes together to decide who the king will be. And of course, it's the man who, it's the father of the child who ends up being the king of that kingdom. And so that's what I saw and looking
So
at
different.
But yeah, that's amazing how everyone will always see something different at a cover. And that also shows when they say don't judge a book by its cover, if we did that, if we went to a bookstore and just picked up a book with a title, what will we all think is actually in that book as opposed to what's actually in the book is
Right.
100%.
It's amazing how we all see something differently.
American History, a children's book series that shares the diverse, eclectic, and colorful history of America. Go to authorcaseybell.com for more information.
And we are back.
It is now time for who is that character? I'm going to show you a name and you have to guess, you have to make up who is this person, this character, the title of the book, and the plot. And so just let me know when you see it. All right, time's up. Miranda, you're going first.
Okay. Okay, I'm making things up as I go along here. Okay, I see Yara LaRue is a West African French woman who is a refugee due to a civil war. And the title of the book is called The Big Move. And she immigrates or seeks asylum in Europe somewhere. I haven't figured that out yet. And the whole story is her trying to find her feet in Europe in this new way of life. So that's what I came up with in very quick 30 seconds.
Yes. Who is Yara LaRue, Mark?
I saw Yara LaRue as a woman living in a galaxy far distant from ours, who was so creative, so impassioned with the creative spirit and with music and art and reading in a very scientific world. She ends up deciding to leave her planet to go explore the universe. Ends up going through some time portal, sometimes some sort of, like, brings her to Earth, where she discovers Earth, and she discovers that there's so many, and this is a series, there's so many different cultures have different ways of appreciating art and music and culture. And that whole series is Yara LaRue discovering Earth culture from an alien perspective, one by one, and just really appreciating it. So yeah, that's that series.
Sweet.
Awesome. So Yara LaRue for me, I would say, is a series as well. She starts out, well, the title of this book is, I don't know. I just know the subtitle is The Detective Stories of Yara LaRue. And so she, all her life has these dreams of these visions, well, dreams of things happening. And like she'll have a dream of someone stealing something in a store, and then 2 days later she'll see the person she saw in her dream on the news stealing something from the store. And so she goes, for whatever reason, she goes to like one of those ancestry websites and finds out she is a descendant of Joseph from the Bible, and realizes that's why she has these dreams. And so she hooks up with, when she has another dream of something really bad happening, she hooks up with a detective, and she kind of secretly tells him, this is what's going on, but don't tell anyone. And so he uses her visions and her dreams to help stop crime before they actually start and to catch people. And so that's Yara LaRue for me. So I want to thank Miranda and Mark for taking the time to be on Writer's Virtual Table. If Mark, you can now tell us, what is the latest book you've just published, and are you working on another one at the moment?
Thank you. I just published a couple months ago urban fantasy novel in my Canadian Werewolf series, and it is called Fear and Longing in Los Angeles. And it is about a man who happens to be a werewolf. He uses the powers that he has as a human, sort of like a superhero vigilante, to help other people. He's on a work trip to Los Angeles, just been dumped by a longtime girlfriend. So that's where the longing comes in, and the fear comes from this neo-Nazi hate group that he uncovers that seem to also have supernatural powers. So they're not just the average thug that he can easily defeat. And that is in my series, and so that was published a few months ago, and I am in the throes, probably halfway through writing Fright Night's Big City, which is the next book in the series, which is up for pre-order in December. So I have a deadline to get that to my editor for mid-July.
Oh, awesome. And Miranda, same question.
My last book that I published was the third book in my Chin Up Tits Out series. It was called Just Breathe, Chin Up Tits Out. So it is, like I said, it's a third book. So main character is the same as the first two, and she is trying to dig herself out of a hole that life kind of threw her in. The first couple of books, she's with a partner and a lot of stuff happens. Third book, that partner is no longer there. If you want to know what, you got to read them, but partner is no longer there. So trying to find your happily ever after, but not with a partner, just by yourself, trying to self-discovery, self-love, self-respect, but a lot of shenanigans are happening. So what do you do in your 20s? You experiment, you push the boundaries, you figure out all the things that you like and you don't like. And that's exactly what Hadley, our main character, does in the third book. And my next series is called Love My Lady Bits, and I am currently writing the first book. It's a 3-part series as well, and that is a compilation. It is a fiction story, but it is a compilation of, how do I say this? Let me start from scratch. I interviewed 100 women. And each of those women have a condition called endometriosis. Endometriosis is a condition that starts in your reproductive area and it goes all over your body. And 1 in 10 women worldwide suffer with this condition. It's untreatable, incurable, it's really, really painful, and it has a whole bucket list of symptoms that are just really not fun to live with. So I interviewed 100 women from 21 different countries over the year of 2020 and took all those stories and interviews and created a set of characters that have trouble going through life and accepting what parts they were given and how they act. And now if you like lady bits or you have a set of lady bits yourself, you know they kind of have a mind of their own. So this is a whole series of bringing some light to it, making it less taboo, and just hopefully uplifting some people and resonating with our readers that, you know, lady bits are crazy, but it's okay. You gotta love them because you only get one set during your life. So I'm hoping to get that out by the end of the year, but I don't know. I have a newborn at home, so we're taking one day at a time. Like, I don't even know what day it is right now. So we write when we can.
Well, congratulations on the newborn.
Thank you.
I know what it's like. I'm an uncle, but I don't know what it's like, if that makes sense. That's why I don't have children.
My brother's the same way. He's like, okay, I've held her for 5 minutes. My time is up. She squawked. And I'm like, yeah, she's fine though. And he goes, no, I don't want to break her. I'm like, believe me, I didn't want to break her. I haven't broke her for 3 months almost. So like, we're okay. We've kept her alive. I'm alive. We're winning. We're winning.
Yes, they are a handful.
Yeah.
As for me, my latest project is a series of children's books called American History, where it's 9 books, and each book looks at different set of people. So the first book is African American, then we have Asian, Hispanic, Native Indian, Pacific Islanders, Mideastern, European, North, Central, South American, and I think that's Australian. And so it's a series of books where inventors, innovators, entrepreneurs, because in America school, they don't really teach American history, so to speak. So it's my way of showing, well, it was first my way of showing my nephews and nieces that Americans, especially Black Americans, have done much more than they're teaching you. So that's that. As far as what I'm working on as a writer, I'm not ashamed, but I guess I should be ashamed to say I'm not working on anything at the moment. And I know that that's weird. And, you know, as a writer, you're always supposed to be working on something. I mean, I do have a book that's complete, but I'm not working on it because it's complete. But other than that, I'm literally not working on anything. And I guess you can say my excuse is this. I've been podcasting since May of 2020, and I really, with the editing of the videos and the uploading and the scheduling, it's just been a lot of work, and I don't really have much to write right now. So no, I'm not working on anything, and I hope I'm okay in saying that around you, because I know I see on Twitter all the time, you're always supposed to be writing as a writer. I'm like, well, I write my grocery list. I don't know if that matters, but no, I'm literally not working on anything at the moment.
I've learned one thing about being a writer over the last half a decade, because, you know, I'm a pro now, just kidding, is that you're just a creator. So even though you're not putting pen to paper or your fingers to the keyboard, your brain is still cooking up something, and it may not be consciously cooking up something, but it's subconsciously cooking up something. So like, don't be too hard on yourself, because something will come when the time comes. And right now you're just focusing on creating just differently. And that's just going to help build and make the next book that you have even better.
It's gestating, right? All of those things are percolating.
Yeah.
Working their way through.
Yeah. You're percolating your next newborn baby in the form of a book.
Thank you for that. Well, I want to thank Mark and Miranda for joining me on today. I greatly appreciate the both of them for spending their time with me. And you, the audience, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Have a great week.